I'm 59, retired early from the utility company, and somehow lonelier now than when I was working night shifts with a thermos and a raccoon for company. My wife, Mia, and I just crossed 40 years together, college sweethearts who learned each other's coffee orders before we learned our own spines. The kids are grown, the house is paid off, and our life should be entering its calmest season. Instead, I wake up every morning in a house that smells like lilac lotion and travel-size mouthwash because Mia is always packing for the next tour. Tour is her word, though there's nothing glamorous about it. It's Aunt Lorna's circuit, flea markets, quilt shows, gospel homecomings. Any event willing to hand a microphone to an 80-year-old woman with stories longer than the line for the restroom. Lorna has her own gravitational pull, and my wife orbits her like a devoted moon. I even list Lorna as a dependent on our taxes, because for years I've covered her rent top-ups, paid her pharmacy bills, and hired electricians to keep her flickering outlets from catching fire. What started as sympathy has turned into something else, tribute, maybe, or emotional taxation. Lorna's gratitude always comes wrapped in a backhanded performance titled, "You'd be nothing without me." She calls Mia her real audience, her only girl, then adds a cutting aside about men who retire and rot. She says it loud enough for me to hear while I'm slicing fruit in the kitchen. I used to think she didn't mean it, but the older we get, the less room there is for pretending. We tried therapy once. I booked it, paid for it, and drove us there. During the first session, Lorna called with a coughing fit so dramatic it could have won an award. Mia went pale, answered the phone, and the therapist, an endlessly patient woman, suggested we reschedule. Mia never went back. That night, while folding clothes into a suitcase, she told me, "Boundaries are cruel." She raised me after Mom. I remember that, but I also remember Lorna at our anniversary dinner announcing that marriage is a hobby before sliding my prime rib onto her own plate because red meat weakens a sensitive heart. Apparently, mine didn't count. Over time, the surprises got weirder. One day, a yellow envelope from Adult Protective Services showed up, an anonymous complaint claiming I was isolating Lorna by refusing to drive her after dark. I'd just had cataract surgery. I couldn't legally drive at night. Then I found an expired EpiPen in our medicine cabinet, labeled, "In case your husband forgets you're allergic to bee stings." Mia isn't allergic to anything except silence. Later, I discovered someone, guess who, had listed Mia as her medical proxy without even telling me. Not illegal, but somehow worse. Then there were the small humiliations that crept into daily life. Watching Mia pack for another weekend away, saying, "It's just for a few days," and coming home over a week later with hotel soaps and a plastic legacy storytelling contest trophy. Listening to her whisper on speakerphone in the bathroom so I wouldn't feel bad. Seeing my toothbrush move to the guest cup so Lorna could have the matching set. Temporary, she'd said. Like a stain. I've started to feel like a ghost haunting my own marriage. We used to talk until midnight with the lights off, arguing about whether pie counted as breakfast. Now she's gone more often than she's here, and when I reach for her in bed, all I find is cold air and the faint smell of her shampoo. And yet, she keeps promising it's all for family, for duty, for what's right. I'm not sure what's right anymore. All I know is that every time she leaves, it feels like she's packing a little more of our marriage into those suitcases. The home search started as one of Lorna's grand ideas. She decided she was ready to downsize, though her list of non-negotiables could have filled a real estate brochure. No stairs, no shared walls, no north-facing homes, no neighbors with wind chimes, and, my personal favorite, a husband room for when I visit. When I visit, I printed that text out and folded it into my wallet like a curse I couldn't bring myself to tear up. Over 6 weekends, our lives became a rotating cycle of open houses and polite rejection. I drove the 3 of us everywhere because, as Lorna put it, GPS is too liberal. She sat in the back seat like a queen on a reluctant tour, clutching a tote full of recycled tissues and half-melted butterscotch candies. Mia, ever the optimist, came prepared with spreadsheets color-coded for budget and features. But every potential home ended the same. Lorna wrinkling her nose and finding fault in everything. "This one's too modern," she'd say. "This one's too small. The light in here feels judgmental. Can't you smell the mildew of broken marriages?" Each time, Mia would apologize. To her, not the realtor, and we'd move on to the next stop. The rejection ritual became so routine I could predict it before we even parked. And yet, I kept driving, because part of me hoped that maybe, if Lorna finally settled somewhere, she might let us breathe again. But she didn't want a house. She wanted control. Every time Mia tried to picture her own future, Lorna rewrote it to include herself. I'd see it in the way Mia's shoulders slumped, the way her sentences shrank into apology. It hit me one Sunday afternoon, watching Mia sift through listings at the kitchen table. Her face was soft in the lamplight, but her eyes looked hollow. She said, "I just want her to be happy." And I asked, gently, "When was the last time you were?" She didn't answer, just kept scrolling through homes that would never be good enough for the woman who'd already taken ours. That was when I realized it wasn't about the house. It was about finding a way back to each other before the map disappeared completely. I started noticing the pattern. Lorna wasn't looking for a home. She was testing how much Mia would give up for her. The first house was a cozy 2-bedroom cottage with a wraparound porch. Mia's eyes sparkled when she saw the garden. She said she could finally grow tomatoes again, something she hadn't done since our first house. Lorna sniffed the air and said, "Smells like mildew and divorce." She wouldn't even step inside. We left within 10 minutes. Mia apologized to her. The second house had a beautiful sunroom. I stood there picturing myself reading the paper, maybe even napping while Mia baked something for the first time in years. Lorna found a hair in the sink, probably from the realtor, and declared the place contaminated by slovenly tenants. I wanted to laugh, but Mia's face told me not to. The next day, she canceled all remaining viewings until Annie felt ready. That night, I poured myself a whiskey and watched Lorna's Facebook page. She'd posted a photo from our day out with the caption, "Another long day of house hunting with my girl." Some men just don't get it. Dozens of comments from her church friends poured in, praising her dedication, calling her a saint for not ending up in a home. Mia liked every single one. It got stranger after that. Lorna started calling me, the roommate. She'd visit for dinner, sit in my chair, and lecture about the lonely plague of retirement. One evening she told Mia, in front of me, "He just doesn't know how to be needed anymore." I opened my mouth to say something, but Mia's hand found my knee under the table, a silent plea not to fight. I swallowed it down with cold potatoes. Then came the weekend of the tour of homes, 5 showings in one day. I drove, again, even though Lorna refused to chip in for gas. At each stop, she found a new reason to reject the place. Noisy neighbors, bad energy, or a faint smell she compared to unwashed men. By house number 4, I was fantasizing about dropping them both off at a random Airbnb and driving straight to the coast. But house number 5 changed everything. It was a modest bungalow, warm light, no stairs, close to everything. The realtor was a woman about Mia's age, friendly, genuine, and I could see Mia visibly relax. She ran her hands over the kitchen counters, the same way she used to when we first moved in together. "This feels right," she said quietly. It was the first time I'd seen hope on her face in months. Lorna stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. "It's too small," she said flatly. "It's perfect for you," Mia replied. I said it's too small. Her tone shifted, sharp, brittle, commanding. "You're not listening, dear. I raised you better than to ignore me." Something cracked. Not in the house, in Mia. She turned, eyes wet but steady. "You didn't raise me. You rescued me. Once. And I've spent 40 years paying for it." The silence that followed felt holy. Even the realtor froze mid-smile. Lorna's lip trembled. "So this is how you repay me? Abandoning me when I need you most?" "I'm not abandoning you," Mia said softly. "I'm choosing me." And for the first time, I saw the woman I married. Not the caretaker, not the peacekeeper, but the fiery 20-year-old who used to drag me to concerts and paint the bathroom walls coral, just because it felt alive. We left that house without saying much. Lorna sulked in the back seat, muttering about betrayal and ungrateful bloodlines. Mia just stared out the window, clutching the brochure like a lifeline. That night, she didn't unpack her suitcase. She sat beside me on the couch and whispered, "I think I'm ready to talk to the therapist again." And just like that, the smallest flicker of something real returned. Hope, fragile but alive. Mia booked the session herself this time. No coaxing, no emotional bribery. No, if it makes you happy. She called our old therapist, Dr. Wren, and set it for a Thursday morning. I offered to drive her, but she wanted to go alone. I need to say things without you listening, she said, and even though that hurt, it was the kind of hurt that meant progress. While she was gone, I tried to do normal things, mow the lawn, scrub the coffee pot, sort the mail, but my stomach was a washing machine. I didn't know if she'd come home ready to rebuild or ready to leave. She came back looking lighter. Not happy, but less haunted. Her eyes weren't darting toward her phone anymore. When I asked how it went, she said, I told her everything. Then, after a pause, even the parts one didn't know were hurting you. That night we talked, really talked, about the years Lorna had quietly rewritten our life. How she'd guilt Mia into skipping our anniversary trip. How she'd accidentally donated the photo albums from our kids' childhood to her church rummage sale, because memories make people lazy. Every story I thought was an isolated incident turned out to be another stitch in a web Mia hadn't realized she was trapped in. She made me feel like love was dead, Mia said, tears welling. Like the more I owed her, the more worthy I was. And I believed her. For decades. I wanted to tell her she wasn't to blame, but the truth is, I'd played along too. Every time I stayed silent to keep peace, every time I said, it's fine, when it wasn't, I was complicit. We'd both let Lorna rewrite the rules. The next morning, Mia called Lorna and told her she couldn't make the next tour stop. I was standing in the kitchen pretending not to listen, but the phone was on speaker. You're choosing him over family? Lorna's voice, sharp as vinegar. I'm choosing boundaries, Mia said quietly. Oh, you learned that word from that quack, didn't you? Don't you see what he's doing? He's isolating you, making you cruel. Mia took a breath. I love you, Andy. But this conversation isn't helping me heal. I need space. Click. For a moment, I thought we'd won. But Lorna doesn't lose quietly. The next day, Mia's cousin sent her a screenshot. Lorna had posted on Facebook. Some people forget who changed their diapers and think therapy will wash their conscience. The comments section was a Greek chorus of pity and venom. Half of Mia's relatives piled on, calling her ungrateful and brainwashed. Mia read every single comment. I watched her face go from shock to guilt to anger. I should respond, she whispered. Set the record straight. Don't, I said. You can't win with people who want you to bleed publicly. She didn't post, but she didn't sleep either. Around midnight, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through old messages from Lorna. Guilt trips disguised as affection, compliments with knives in them. She used to tell me, you're the only one who makes me feel alive, Mia said, her voice shaking. That's not love. That's prison. The next morning, she deleted Facebook. Then, in a move that stunned me, she booked a joint therapy session for both of us. If we're going to rebuild, she said, we need to do it together, not just after she's done taking pieces of me. But Lorna wasn't done. A week later, we got a letter, handwritten, perfume-stained, 3 pages long. The opening line was pure theater. My dear Mia, I forgive you for this phase. Men have a way of poisoning soft hearts. When you realize the mistake, my door is open. The second page accused me of driving wedges like a serpent in Eden. The third page ended with, if you don't come to the family luncheon next month, everyone will know who you've become. I watched Mia read it twice, then calmly tear it in half. She looked at me, voice steady. We're still going to therapy, right? Absolutely. She smiled, tiny, tremulous, but real. Then maybe we'll make it. And for the first time in years, I believed her. Our joint session was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Rainy, gray, the kind of day that makes the world feel small enough to face. We sat side by side in the waiting room, holding hands like nervous teenagers. Mia's grip was tight, half comfort, half fear. Dr. Wren greeted us with that same calm tone, her office smelling faintly of eucalyptus and coffee. It's good to see you both, she said. Let's start with where you are today. Mia spoke first, surprising me with her honesty. I feel like I've been living someone else's life. I thought taking care of Aunt Lorna was love, but it's not. It's penance. Dr. Wren nodded. And what are you atoning for? Mia's voice cracked. For surviving. That hit like a punch. I'd never heard her put it that way. She explained that after her mother's death, Lorna had stepped in as a savior, but a savior who never let her forget it. Every act of kindness came with a hook. She'd say things like, you're lucky I didn't give up on you, or you'll pay me back someday. And I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. I admitted my part too, the quiet resentment, the cowardice of calling peace patience. I stopped fighting for us because every fight made me feel like the villain, I said. So I just stopped showing up. Dr. Wren leaned forward. That's where we begin. By showing up again. We left that session lighter. It wasn't fixed, but it was something. We went to lunch afterward, nothing fancy, just soup and sandwiches at a cafe downtown. Mia smiled when the waitress called us lovebirds. I hadn't seen that smile in years. But peace never lasts long when you've got a storm like Lorna brewing. That afternoon, our therapist called. I just wanted to give you a heads up, she said. Someone claiming to be a family member showed up asking to join your next session. She said she's part of the problem. Mia froze when she heard the name. She came here. She was insistent, Dr. Wren said carefully. I told her we can't include anyone without consent. Lorna had actually driven to the office, in person, to demand therapy for herself, with us. That night, the phone started ringing again. Unknown numbers, blocked IDs, hang-ups. Then came a voicemail, her voice trembling with rage and drama. You can't erase me from your life, Mia. I built it. If you need a villain, fine. I'll be your villain. But you'll come back to me when the dust settles. You always do. Mia didn't cry this time. She just deleted it. Then she called the phone company and changed her number. But the real turning point came 2 days later. A letter from Lorna's church arrived, hand-delivered, sealed with wax like we were in some medieval family feud. It invited Mia to a forgiveness circle, apparently scheduled the same weekend as our second therapy session. The pastor even wrote a note. Sister Lorna tells us you've fallen under worldly influence, but we're praying for your return. Mia laughed, an exhausted, incredulous laugh. She's turned my healing into a sermon. That weekend, we didn't go to any circle. We went to therapy again instead. Mia brought the letter and read it out loud. Then she tore it up in front of Dr. Wren. I don't owe her my life anymore, she said, her voice clear as a bell. And then, something completely unexpected happened. Mia asked if we could take a trip, just the two of us. Not to run away, she said. To remember who we were before everything turned into damage control. We booked a cabin by the lake for the next weekend. Just a small one, with a wood stove and no Wi-Fi. That night, as she packed, she hummed to herself, a soft tune I hadn't heard since our early years. I realized I'd forgotten how beautiful she sounded when she wasn't apologizing for something. But as we loaded the car the next morning, I spotted something on the porch, a white envelope with my name written in perfect cursive. No postage, just one line inside. You can have her body, but her heart is mine. I felt the chill before the wind even picked up. And as I looked toward the road, I could have sworn I saw a parked car in the distance, silver, with the shape of someone watching. The drive to the lake should have felt like freedom. 2 hours of autumn roads, gold and rust leaves swirling behind us, the kind of sky that makes you want to start over. Mia played the old playlist from our dating days, Fleetwood Mac, a little Springsteen, her singing softly like muscle memory. For the first time in years, we weren't arguing or whispering around someone else's needs. We were just us. The cabin was small but perfect, wood stove, creaky floorboards, the faint smell of pine and coffee. The lake itself was mirror still, reflecting the fading light like glass. We unpacked groceries, built a fire, and for one peaceful hour, I thought maybe we'd made it through the worst. Then Mia found the note. She was unpacking her toiletries when she froze. Did you put this here? She asked. On the dresser was a single folded slip of paper, tucked under her hairbrush. It was written in that same tight cursive we both recognized instantly. Nice view. Shame about the company. For a second, the air felt thin. I checked the doors and windows, locked. The owner of the cabin lived 3 towns over. I'd spoken to him myself. No one else had the code. Mia's hands trembled. She wouldn't drive this far. Would she? I didn't know what to say. Logic said no. History said don't bet on it. We spent the night pretending it was coincidence. Maybe a prank from a previous guest, a leftover scrap of someone else's drama. But around midnight, a car engine rumbled outside. Then silence. When I peeked through the blinds, I caught a glint of silver in the dark, headlights off, parked just beyond the trees. I didn't tell Mia right away. She'd only just started breathing freely again. But the next morning, she noticed the tire tracks herself. Instead of panicking, she did something I didn't expect. She called Dr. Wren. I don't want to run from this anymore, she said. I want to learn how to end it. Dr. Wren told her to document everything, messages, notes, sightings, and to prepare to file a restraining order if needed. Boundaries don't have to be metaphors, she said. Sometimes they're legal. That night, Mia wrote a letter, not to send, but to purge. She sat at the kitchen table, firelight flickering across her face, and wrote everything she'd never said to Lorna. The guilt, the anger, the exhaustion, the years stolen. When she was done, she took it outside and burned it in the fire pit, watching the paper curl into ash. "Goodbye," she whispered. For the first time, she didn't cry afterward. She smiled, small, defiant. But the peace didn't last long. The next morning, when I went out for firewood, I found something tucked under the windshield wiper of our car. A napkin from a diner 2 towns over. Written in lipstick. "See you at home." That was it. We packed up early. The drive back was silent, the air between us tight but solid. Mia held my hand on the gear shift the entire way, like she was anchoring herself to the present. When we got home, we installed cameras around the house. I changed the locks. Mia called the police to report harassment, something I never thought she'd do. The officer who took the report asked if Lorna might be unstable. Mia hesitated. "She's lonely," she said. "But yes, she's unstable." Later that night, she said something that stayed with me. "You know, all those years I thought she needed me to survive. But maybe it was the other way around. Maybe she only knew how to live through me." We fell asleep on the couch together, exhausted but united. The house felt different, ours again, not haunted by someone else's will. The next morning, there was a voicemail from Lorna. Short, almost calm. "I hope you're proud. I'm moving back home. Don't worry, I won't bother you again." No dramatics, no guilt trip. Just that. Mia didn't trust it, but she didn't chase it either. She just nodded and said, "If she's really moving on, so will I." That evening, she unpacked her paintbrushes, the ones she hadn't touched in years, and set up a canvas by the window. She dipped the brush in bright coral paint, just like the color she once used in our first apartment. I watched her, heart full and breaking all at once. She looked over her shoulder, smiling faintly. "This time," she said, "I'm painting for me." And even though the shadows of the past lingered just outside the glass, for the first time in decades, our home felt like a place that could hold sunlight again. A week after that eerie voicemail, silence. No calls, no notes, no lipstick threats. For the first time, the quiet didn't feel like peace. It felt like a held breath. Then Mia's cousin texted, "Have you heard from Aunt Lorna? No one's seen her in days." My stomach dropped. Mia went pale. We both knew this was how Lorna worked, vanished to stir guilt. But this time it dragged on. The police did a welfare check. Her apartment was spotless, suitcase gone, mail piled up. No signs of struggle. Just gone. For 2 days, Mia barely slept. "What if she's really hurt?" she whispered. "What if I pushed her too far?" Then came an envelope, postmarked from Florida, no return address. Inside was a postcard of a beach and a single line. "Found a new audience. Don't wait up." Mia stared at it for a long time, then laughed through tears. Relief, grief, disbelief, all tangled. "She's gone," she said finally. "Really gone." And I knew she meant more than geography. That night, she sat beside me on the porch, head on my shoulder. "Maybe she'll find peace," she murmured. "Maybe we all will," I said. The stars were sharp above us, the air cool and still. For the first time, the quiet was just quiet. Weeks passed, and life started to sound like itself again. No sudden calls, no guilt-soaked surprises, just mornings with coffee and the smell of toast, evenings spent watching old movies we'd forgotten we loved. Mia began painting daily. Bright, defiant colors, sunrise oranges, stormy blues, wild greens. One canvas was just a swirl of coral and gold, and when I asked what it meant, she smiled. "Freedom looks messy," she said. Therapy continued, gentler now. Dr. Wren helped us learn the strange art of normalcy. How to speak without defensiveness. How to sit in silence without fear. Sometimes, Mia still flinched at the sound of her phone. Trauma doesn't vanish with a postcard. But every time it happened, she took a deep breath and said, "She doesn't own this anymore." And slowly, I realized, we were finally building something that belonged only to us. By early spring, we'd settled into a rhythm. Therapy, small dinners, laughter returning in cautious bursts. Then one afternoon, a knock at the door. Mia froze. We weren't expecting anyone. When I opened it, a woman stood there, mid-30s, polite but nervous. "Hi," she said. "You don't know me, but I'm Lorna's neighbor. From Florida." My heart lurched. She explained that Lorna had suffered a mild stroke weeks ago. She was recovering, lucid but fragile. She asked me to return this, the woman said, handing Mia a small, worn photo. Mia at 12, grinning beside a younger Lorna. On the back, in Lorna's handwriting, "My brightest girl." Mia stared at it for a long moment, tears threatening. "Did she say anything else?" The woman nodded. "She said to tell you she's sorry, and that she's learning how to be alone." After she left, we sat in silence. No anger, no relief, just an ache that felt strangely clean. Mia finally whispered, "Maybe that's her way of setting me free." And for the first time, she didn't follow it with guilt. The neighbor's visit left a soft echo in our days. Mia kept that photo on her nightstand, not as a shrine, but as proof that even tangled love can leave something gentle behind. We began taking walks again, slow ones around the park, hand in hand like we used to before the weight of obligation bent us inward. Sometimes we talked about the past, sometimes we didn't. Silence between us wasn't a battlefield anymore, it was rest. Therapy shifted from survival to rebuilding. Dr. Wren gave us small tasks. Make new traditions, share something you never did before, say thank you instead of sorry. It was harder than it sounded, but healing always is. One night, Mia surprised me. She brought out an old box of photos. Us in our 20s, laughing, wild-haired, sunburned from camping trips. "We lost these years," she said softly, "but we can make more." So we did. We booked a road trip. No itinerary, no guilt, no invisible passenger dictating our plans. As we packed, Mia said something that felt like closing a book gently instead of slamming it shut. "She'll always be part of my story," she said, "but she's not the author anymore." And I realized, neither of us were victims now. We were writers again. 6 months later, we moved. Not far, just across town, but it felt like a new life. The house was small, sunlit, with a porch that creaked like laughter. On the first day, Mia stood in the kitchen and said, "It feels right." Echoing the moment, everything began to change. We painted the living room together, coral, of course. The same shade she once loved, the one she'd been too afraid to choose for years because Aunt Lorna wouldn't approve. As the brush glided over the walls, she grinned. Guess she doesn't get a vote anymore. Our days became beautifully ordinary. Morning walks, shared coffee, a garden full of tomatoes. Sometimes, the quiet felt almost strange after all that noise, but we learned to fill it with small joys. Music, paint, sunlight, forgiveness. One evening, while unpacking, Mia found the old postcard from Florida tucked in a drawer. She read it one last time, then slipped it between the pages of her journal. "I hope she's okay," she said. "I think she is," I replied. "And so are we." Outside, the sky burned pink over our coral walls. Mia leaned against me, her hair smelling faintly of paint and rain. "We did it," she whispered. "We came back to each other." And in that moment, 40 years of love, bent, tested, bruised, but unbroken, finally exhaled. Not a perfect ending, but a real one. And for us, that was enough.